Yeah, so prior to getting involved with tennis and tennis fitness, I was in the Royal Marines Commandos. That's obviously had a big impact on me personally I guess as a person, the impact of the kind of key cores and values that we have within the corps. So things like that, excellence, integrity, self-discipline, humility. And then commando spirits is courage, determination, unselfishness, and cheerfulness in the face of adversity. So I'd say there's quite a lot of those that would be ticked for a tennis player. So especially like cheerfulness in the face of adversity. So, you might go and get bageled, lose love and love. You've got to still you can't be crying into your recovery shake. You've got to kind of get over it. And yeah, there's a certain elements of it. We were really kind of bred to believe that we were the best, we were the elite. So you do end up with this kind of bit of an elitist mindset. But having that approach to my work in terms of trying to be the best, to try and maintain those standards, is something that stood me in good stead. But definitely over the past few years, it's something that I don't ridiculously high, and they're not really reasonable. I've got a young family now. I've got a daughter who's nearly 3. So, you start to realize, okay, this is what life's about. It's not about pushing as hard as you can at work. There's bigger things at play. So it's had a massive impact on me as a person and just how I conduct myself as a professional. I'm very organized. I'm very disciplined in terms of making sure communication with everybody is important. So yeah, there's a lot of carryover, but there's no shouting and bawling. It's not Corporal Green on the court shouting at kids. It's just about instilling these good kind of beliefs and values into the day-to-day practice. My route into tennis was not a direct one. I left the Royal Marines and went back into education after not being in any sort of schooling for 10 years. So I did a foundation degree because I didn't actually do A-levels. So I did a foundation degree in sports coaching and then went on to top up as a degree, a bachelor's degree in the 3rd year. And for the majority of that time, I massively, extensively volunteered anywhere I could with local council, up at Bolton Arena where I now work. So I kind of worked there in lots of different guises. We did like the sports development teams. We worked with people with hearing disabilities, learning disabilities, Parkinson's, different age school children, as well as doing some work within the tennis department. And my main route was going to go into rugby league because that was something I was interested in. I played rugby league. But as I started to look into it a little bit more deeper, you could see like contracts were very much, there wasn't a lot of job security. It might be a 12 at max 2-year contract. And just basically got approached by the director of sport at the arena and said, in my 2nd year, what are your plans? Because we'd like you to stay. So when I went into my 3rd year of my degree, I just kind of tailored every assignment I could towards tennis in terms of like the strength and conditioning side, sports psychology side, everything I did, I geared it back into tennis. And then I've just never looked back since. I think with tennis versus some other sports, it's not random, but it's not as predictable as like say cycling or rowing. So as a fitness guy working with a rower or a cyclist, there's very clear key performance indicators. Like what I do in the gym can affect the amount of power they can put through the bike, and then that directly correlates to increased chance of winning a race. Whereas in tennis, it's not that way. There's so many different things, so many different physical qualities that a player's got to be good at, and then you add in the craziness of the almost year-round competing. It's a challenge to do my job in this sport, and I think I like that. It keeps it fresh and not too predictable. Like biggest highlight in tennis was achieving the mission, which was be in the box. So as I came into education late and came into the sport a little bit kind of unknown, I set myself a really high target of, it was BITB, be in the box. And it was, be at a Grand Slam, and when the camera goes to the box, I'm sat in it. So that was like the big dream. And I just worked my socks off as hard as I could. I did every course that I thought was relevant. I again, did any relevant coaching or volunteering to help with that. And then within 5 years of not being involved in either strength and conditioning or tennis, I actually was lucky enough to get the gig with Anna Ivanovic, who was a former world number 1. Her boyfriend had moved to Manchester United. We lived close to Manchester, and I just got this opportunity to interview First of all, a bit of a sit-down interview, just around for dinner, and then I did a practical session with her as well, and I was lucky enough to get the gig, and even that was supposed to be just me doing a little bit of work when she was in Manchester. So I worked with her in the kind of short off season, and then when it came to kind of December, she said, I'd like Howard to come to Australia, and I was very lucky then to continue to do quite a bit of traveling with her, and obviously then achieve that dream of being at a slam. So yeah, that was the big goal, and I achieved it. And I've been there, I've done that now, and what I want to do is kind of take what I learned on that journey and reverse engineer it now for the younger players that I work with. So as I said previously, I was kind of engaged, and the goal was to work with professional players, and I've gone on a bit of a journey now, and to kind of go alongside that career highlight of working with a professional player at a Grand Slam. Also, like last year I sent players out to America that I've worked with between 7 and 9 years. So I know I've had a much bigger impact on that person, player and athlete than even I spent 20 or 40 weeks on the road. You've had much bigger impact. So the two kind of go hand in hand, and what it's made me realize, I really love being part of this kind of long-term journey with the player. So I've built a program called Tennis Super Movers, that its main goal, its main mission is to help tennis coaches. I believe that on-court movement and athleticism is the barrier for players to stay in the sport and continue to progress and enjoy it. So therefore, that is the goal of Super Movers, and the collaboration with ourselves and First Advantage Tennis is to help the coaches and help the players and parents improve the athleticism of all their players and their adults as well. So by using the structure of the program, our goal is to engage, educate, and empower everybody that's involved to become more skilled, more confident, more competent in delivering just athlete development to the players, and getting everybody to understand how important it is. In general, kids of the day are not as fit and as strong as they were. There's a lot of sedentary behavior, and obviously off the back of COVID, that's been risen even higher. So yeah, working together closely, we want to kind of bring this to the forefront, that both the coaches, the players, and parents understand its importance and how often they need to work on it as well. I think the biggest goal for Super Movers is taking that player, even if they play recreationally, and they come maybe once or twice a week, that we remove that barrier of on-court movement being an issue, that we reduce the risk of injury. We improve their enjoyment in the sport because they get to compete a little bit harder with each other, and just keep people fit and healthy. It's not all about titles and Grand Slams. We want to make sure we've got this kind of healthy participants, not just for the small window, but that are still kind of taking part in tennis and in all the clubs that they're involved in, well into the later stages of life. So they don't, it's kind of, cradle to grave, that they compete and they get involved in at a young age. They love it so much that they stay active throughout the whole lifestyle. So that's kind of one of the biggest goals, is just keep people active, improve their athleticism, improve their on-court movement, which will then help the tennis coaches, because the player can move better, can make better decisions, can train harder, can get to tougher balls. So it just helps everybody out by working on their athlete development. So if somebody's never played tennis, like trying to sell it to them, I think in terms of a lot of the off-court benefits of it, in terms of how it can improve them as young people, or people in general. Obviously, if they're competing, they often have to referee each other. So that brings a certain level of maturity and discipline. It's a highly skilled sport, so they've really got to work, not just physically, but mentally as well. And it can really tee people up to develop really strong life skills. So whether they continue down the journey to become a tennis player, they go out to American university, or they become a tennis coach, I think the skills and the beliefs and values around being a tennis player and being involved in tennis can set anybody up for the rest of their life, really.